But yeah, so I'm very excited to check out Mantle, and I'm really curious to learn about his creative process, building a comic, both on the narrative side and the creative visual side. So, Adam, do you have? Our goal is to read through some of the project, take a gander at least a few pages, if not more, and then yeah, I was going to ask some questions about the process and your experience. So, any questions or things you want to share before we jump in about the process of creating a comic book label?
I'm excited to talk about this. Thanks for having me on, Jeff. Super appreciative of it. Maybe I'll just start by saying Mantle is a series that I launched this past summer. The first issue dropped in July after a really successful Kickstarter campaign. The second issue actually just arrived in some people's mailboxes today
Oh
after the
dang,
Kickstarter that we ran
I gotta
this
go check
fall.
outside. I don't know
Yeah,
if it's coming to the
you're
states quite
because
as
you're in another
fast.
country from me. I'm in Canada.
Hmm.
I think you're a little. Give it another week.
Okay,
But
okay,
some of the people that are right near me have got theirs.
that's awesome. Well, I'm very
Yeah.
excited, and I think those of you who watch the VOD or whatever will kind of see. I think the narrative momentum is really well done in this project, and yeah, it's a good read so far. But yeah, let's jump on in.
Yeah.
So this is on the left-hand side of the screen. You can see the comic. This is Mantle, and we can just jump on in. So if you want, I can read the action lines, and then if there's a character you want to read the dialogue for, you can. Or have you done a table read like this before? How do you feel about
Um,
it?
I could read the orange captions and I don't know. Or should I just read everything? I'm not sure.
It's up to you.
I mean, I
We can swap out. We can swap out. I can do like the dark red, and if you want to do the orange and
yeah.
the main character's dialogue, I
Yeah,
think that makes
let's try
sense.
that then.
All right. Toronto Pulse here with the news of a thrilling heroics as today the villain known as Frisian menaced the city's waterfront.
Good, evil, power. I live for this stuff.
Frightened bystanders were relieved by the intervention of local hero Monument,
Man, so satisfying. Good swoops in and saves the day.
who, despite being stretched thin in recent months, quickly took control of the situation, battling Frisian back.
And this is not a movie or a comic book. This is all happening right here in real life.
Hey, BJ! I'm talking to you!
Oh crap.
Get over here, you stupid turd!
Hey, leave me. It hardly matters what I say.
Leave him alone, Shepard.
What anyone does or doesn't do.
Garth, my boy, what have we got for our friend today? You ready to be dead like your daddy?
I have no control.
Don't.
Don't.
Oh, sorry, that was your line. My apologies.
I can't stop this. Yimin uses words. Words won't help. Not once it started. I'm theirs. I can't.
And on a writerly interjection, I know I'm doing it on a cliffhanger.
Mhm.
Really good way of delivering exposition, right? In the midst of conflict, this is something I'll talk about a lot. I'm sure everyone's tired of me, saying that, but a really, really great way to give information about a character is to have an antagonistic character give that information about them or somebody else, like much more than like, oh, my dad passed away a number of years ago. The fact that it's coming through in conflict, it gives us what we need and it keeps the scene moving forward. And it also explains a little bit about this character, which, referencing someone's like parent that's passed away is a pretty low blow. So we also know that this person's willing to go below the belt, and we also get the exposition on our main character. So well done.
Thank you.
All right. So that's enough for today. Thanks for the loaner.
It's over. I'm okay and it's over. I wish I was invisible,
Huh, cowards.
but it doesn't matter. I'm almost home.
All right.
Do we keep going?
What do you think? Do you want to keep going through, or we can? I have a lot of questions I can discuss. I'm down to do another page or two. I'm trying to
Let's
remember
do
when
another.
when things are discovered. I'm trying to see.
Let's do another couple pages
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then.
yeah. I think yeah, we got somewhere to go. And for all the people who, watch the VOD, or if anybody jumps in, my chat's broken, so I probably have missed anything if somebody's there.
And
But
I'm relying on you to tell me if things are working technically because I don't.
yes, yes.
know how to do it.
No, we're good.
All right.
It is solid. I will just do one technical shenanigan to make sure that I am not being a total noob here. Um, just bring it to the writing. There we go. All right. Awesome. Oh man. Oh, that's sorry. That's you. Do you want to jump in on "Oh man"?
Oh yeah, sorry, that is me. Oh man, God damn it!
There must be something we can do. Let's tell your mom or Principal Castle. We'll call the police.
Just leave it alone.
VJ, we can't let them keep doing this.
It's fine, man. What the garbage cat? Get out of there!
Meow. I can't control. Oh, sorry, that's you. Go ahead.
I can't control what happens out here. Inside, dude, just forget it. I'm me. Nothing can touch me here. Everything in its proper place.
And authorities report they have several promising leads as to where the villain Frisian could be hiding.
I need a snack.
While Monument remains vigilant as the city's lone protector.
Parker, be a good boy and get me a granola bar from downstairs. Ouch. Not gonna help me out, are you? What good are you anyway?
Veej? I know grilling was always Rom's thing, but I thought we might fire it up again today, get our family fix. What do you think?
I mean, the cheerfulness is a bit much. Sure thing, Mom.
Well, how was your day?
It was fine. Nothing special. Family fix. Right. Kavita and Dad weren't exactly getting along by the end.
I could clean off the grill. Could you look in your dad's room for his barbecue tools?
And so, his closet. This is a lot. Been meaning to explore all this. Dad was like me. He kept things. Photos, clippings. Rom sure was a hoarder. I mean, I can't imagine what he cared so much about. Huh.
All right.
That's maybe a good place to pause.
This is a great place to pause. So
All
right
right.
here, he discovers the mantle to carry. But yeah, so first off, great job. I
Thank
like a lot of the stuff you're doing in the initial chapter, and I think for other writers, like one thing I'll call out is like the having a bully in a school is something that occurs in other stories. But I think one thing that sets this apart, especially as we get later on, is less uncertainty about like the school's world and the environment, and much more about, hey, will the main character do take revenge on these jerks, or will he kind of behave more civilly? And I think that is a really interesting moment to have in the first edition, because that's like kind of the first real choice he makes, is like, hey, I have this problem. How am I going to solve it with the new tools I have? And the fact that he's got kind of an upper hand in terms of the power dynamic now, it definitely shifts in terms of hey, giving the reader some suspense, less about, hey, what's going to happen to this particular bully, or like why are they so X, Y, or Z. But I thought it was like really well done in terms of driving suspense around the choice the hero was going to make, in terms of, is he going to do the right thing, or is he going to be kind of go the dark path and start using these new powers for revenge. But I'm curious, like, what kind of inspired you to build this story, to start in a school setting, in this environment, and yeah, how do you see that factoring into the story you're looking to tell?
Yeah, I mean, there at the very outset of all this, I knew I wanted to make a comic book, and I didn't necessarily know what it would be about. And I actually set myself a goal of just kind of pitching myself several different ideas and having a few options to consider before choosing one. And Mantle, this what became Mantle was one of the ideas, and I mean it comes about from like
Mhm.
my own high school years. Like I remember being bullied in high school. It was like a thing for me, and I remember how much I wished I could have taken revenge. How much I
Mhm.
wish I could have like fought back and even hurt them, and sometimes now when I watch other stories that deal with bullying, like I have kind of a visceral reaction to it, and when a character takes revenge to that as well.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, like I think what part of what I thought made it compelling is like you look at some of the stuff that goes on in the world today, like in schools, shootings and things like this, like terrible things, which arise from young men
Yeah.
feeling angry and frustrated and alone and wanting to. And so
Yeah, I mean, in
I,
some
I guess,
senses, like finding rather than dad's glove, dad's gun or something in
yeah,
the upper, attic in some respects.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I love superheroes. I love reading superhero comics. I figured that would probably be part of the mix here, but my thought was, well, what if a kid who's really badly bullied and wishes he could take revenge finds a super powered weapon in his
Mhm.
father's closet? How
Yeah.
does he do that?
Yeah, yeah, and I think those are, and I think that is something that as you, explore the character, something I'm really curious to see, right? Because even early on, like I think you're establishing a few really good things in tension, right? Like this character wants to go into their own world, escape, like not be involved, disengage. You have the character, sorry, my brother's pinging me about something, but it's okay, he's fine. But the character, wants to escape, as well as wants to get revenge and kind of pay back these people who've been unkind to him, um, as well as just hoping to kind of keep his head down and ignore everything that's going on, and just to say, hey, look, if I like, I'm not going to tell the principal, I'm not going to go through these other steps my friend's recommending, you know, just trying to solve the issue with the problem that got him there. And I think that's also a really compelling character trait is, so much of what happens, that I really connect with in stories is, you're like, it's like, oh, if there's a workaholic in the story, the first way they're going to try to solve their problem, or whatever the story problem is working harder. It's
Yeah,
like, but
yeah,
the actual need of that character might be like saying, hey, like you actually just need to like, get to know the situation and step back. And so I think like that thematic setup is really well done in terms of, hey, like we're from page one. It's very uncommon because I read a lot of fiction, but having that set up from page one, having, hey, this is the hero's temptation, right? Escape, revenge, and just not going through normal channels and just hoping it all blows by, and having that established really early is much more meaningful than even the facts of his father's passing, right? And that's when it comes to exposition, I think something you're doing really, really well, right? Where the expository facts, while those are important, we're only learning the ones that are like integral to understanding the thematic struggle this character is already going to start to experience. So, well done. If this was a writing workshop, I'd put a star on there.
thank you. I mean, it's cool to hear all this stuff because, like, yes, I agree with all that, but also, you know, I didn't approach it quite as consciously
Mhm.
as you describe it. So it's kind of nice to hear, like, oh, I guess that worked out.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's with any writing feedback. Someone will be like, "Oh, Jeff, did you intend this?" You just go, "Yep, yep,
yeah.
100%." So yes.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I feel like every writer probably has a different process, but I know part of it is, for me anyways, you just start writing and you do what feels right.
Mhm.
And then when you come back on like your second read or your editing process, you kind of like start to think, does this still feel right or does it feel wrong? And if it feels wrong, then that's where I get into, intellectualizing it and,
And like
what
kind of
might
break
be
it out.
missing or how might we strengthen a scene, that kind of thing.
So in terms of your process, that's a really interesting thing because I know you already mentioned, hey, you started in some senses almost doing like a wish list, which is like, hey, what are some ideas I want to pitch to myself that, I would click with, I would find engaging. So from that step,
Hmm.
Mantle came to the point. What was, that, pitching process after you kind of decided on Mantle? What did the next phase look like for you?
Um, I'm trying to remember now. This is going back a couple of years,
That's
but
true. It's
no,
professional
no, the way
creativity.
I tend to like wade into these things is like, and again, everyone has a different approach. I think some people start, writing dialogue and just,
Mhm,
starting on page one. That's not how I approached it. I think I started thinking about who might the main character be,
mhm,
what other characters might be around him. And at the beginning, I didn't even necessarily know that it would be like a 4-part, 100-page story. I
yeah.
thought maybe we'll just do one comic and like how could we like tell a complete story in 30-ish pages, that kind of thing. But so I think initially I was thinking smaller, and I
Mhm,
remember just mapping out some story beats like,
mhm,
okay, starts like this happens, and and really just having like a page or two in a Google Doc of
mhm,
bullet points. So something that I can take in all in one view and start to like think about. And you write all that down, and then maybe I went for a walk and
mhm,
thought about it, or maybe I went home that night.
mhm,
And I just find that once you get the ideas stewing, and if you have what you've got so far captured in a like this is where I wouldn't even want like 30 pages of script, because once it's gone that far, it's really hard to like step back and look at it
and
all.
trim it down.
But
Yeah.
but when it's just like a page or two, it's easy to like think about this story arc that I'm imagining and think, oh, I that's not going to make sense. This needs to happen first, or oh, we
Mhm.
need another character here. And then it's really easy to go in and just start plugging those things into the outline. Like that's the easiest stage to just start like molding the Play-Doh into the general shape that you want.
Yeah, and
So
I think that's a great piece of advice too, is sort of having a beat sheet or a scene by scene outline or something similar where you see the main flow of the story and then, before you have, scenes that you like attached to it or that you've already written out, shifting things and making those adjustments before, because I know from for me at least,
yeah,
like as you start writing, it just becomes harder and harder to adjust and cut because you start building up equity in all the
yeah.
different things you've already put together, and it's very challenging.
And for what it's worth, I still went back and forth, like not to jump too far ahead, but I remember at one point I did write out the full script for a 30-ish page version of the story. Back when I thought, hey, I'm gonna self-publish one comic book and it
Hmm.
will it will tell a story. And I had that for a bit. And somewhere along the way, I remember thinking like, okay, this is going to be more than that. This is going to be more like 100 pages.
Hmm.
That's 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 just the
Yeah, the
shape of this thing
pacing
that
and
makes
yeah, where
sense,
it's where it's headed.
commercially, financially, allows me to tell more story. So I remember what I then did is, even though I had written full script, I took a step back and wrote everything I had on cue cards, and some of what was the ending of the 30-page story became the ending of the 100-page story. So
Mm.
I had a bunch of cue cards near the beginning and I had a few cue cards near the end. And then I just started thinking, like, if I have time to let this breathe, what cards would I add in the
In the
middle?
middle.
Like, did I have like 3 cliffhangers? And so that's
Yeah,
what.
yeah, getting into the 3 act structure and like building it out from there is like super helpful.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's awesome to hear. I don't know if you've ever, read Save the Cat, like is a really great structure where it talks a lot about note cards and beat outlines, but something I definitely recommend to a lot of writers out there because it is a really just a even if they don't stick to the exact framework, just having, that structure of like, idea, beat outline, scene cards, and then evolving from there, it just gives a lot more. power to the plot, I feel like earlier, and it's always something that, yeah, and for discovery writers that can just sit down and write, like I think it's awesome, but it also is really helpful to have that kind of like extra backpack of information that you can draw
Mhm.
from in case you're, discovery writing, you're like, oh, I don't really know, it's not clicking, and going back and looking and seeing what can I adjust. So you
For
you
sure.
built out the 100x page script. What did the next phase look like? Obviously, I know you credit that you found a number of really awesome, or a really awesome line draw, like a
Artist.
colorist and an artist. I'm
Mhm.
still kind of a comic noob, so I don't know exactly like all the
Yeah.
terminology. But
Yeah.
yeah, from hey, I have this kind of 4 episode story that you feel really comfortable with bringing forward. What did the next phase of just developing the product look like?
Yeah. Um, well, you touch on a really good point, which is, maybe for your general audience, I'll say like
Yeah.
working on a comic book is different from working on prose in the sense that like I don't control every aspect of the finished product.
Hmm.
Ultimately, it's not my words that will be the primary thing that the audience experiences. There's
Hmm.
like a visual storyteller that needs to become involved.
Yeah.
Um, Luckily, like I'm a lifelong comic book nerd. You know, the process has always been fascinating to me. I even like interned at Marvel Comics when I was
Hmm.
a teenager. I can't remember if you and I have talked about that
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
So like I really like not only knew how it was done, but like had seen it done like firsthand. And so, I mean, I knew that I needed an artist.
Hmm.
Um, I know a few people in Toronto that make comics, but they have their own careers and weren't interested in like my kind of noob amateur project as it was at the time. Um, but I remember what I did was I put out a call for artists on social media, and I had very little social media presence.
Hmm.
But I figured something I did have going for me was I was willing to pay an artist to work on this,
Yeah.
which is more than I can say for a lot of people that are online looking for collaborators.
Oh yeah.
So I put out a call for artists, and that it was a paid gig. I think I set up like a Google form that included some more details about what this project was. I think I shared some, but not all of the details of what I had
Hmm.
written, and I put it out there. And for someone with like very little presence, like it got some traction and some resharing and reposting. And as I recall, I got about 40 responses, and I was pretty open minded about what my collaborators' work might be like. Although in order to write the script, I did have to envision each page in a sequence of panels. I was not set on like any one style. Like I was trying to stay open minded because I just didn't know what I could get. Um,
Yeah. So
and so
it sounds like a lot of like the actual like page by page artistic style. You were saying hey, I know what beats I need to hit on a given page. I know where, what's, episode one's kind of story elements that I need to hit, but in terms of how that stylistically looks, sort of giving that control up and just preparing to give that control up to the artist
yeah,
and saying, hey, like those decisions really don't belong necessarily to the writer. They're something that you want to, make sure that you're saving for that other creator.
exactly. Yeah. Like in order to write the script of a comic book, you do need to like understand the medium and that you're dealing with like a series of static images. And
Hmm.
so it's like a screenplay, but different even from a screenplay.
Yeah, I
So I
know in
mean,
the past, like, because I've done some work for like children's books, is they'll often
mhm,
be like the lines on a page, a block, in brackets of like the art notes, and say, hey, like on this, in frame one, there's two, a hero and a villain fighting. Is that similar, or were you, you know, how heavily balanced was that towards, hey, there's a lot of art notes, like I'm really giving them a kind of capsule by capsule, frame by frame sort of art commentary, or is it a little bit more, this is really just a story beat, we're hitting this page, and let them kind of break it up into individual images?
it's more like the first thing you said,
Okay.
and I've done some screenwriting, and so I would say like that's similar to
Hmm.
the amount of detail I include. Like for that first panel of the page, I probably wrote a little paragraph, and especially since it introduced new characters, I said something about each character, and I did think I included the actual script, like the words that are going to appear on the page as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
So fairly fleshed out. So like I would have said like page one, panel two, panel three with a description of each. That's it varies how people approach this stuff in comics, but I saw it at least that clearly.
Yeah.
Um, but whether it's rendered in kind of a
Like an anime style
cartoony
or a
style or
more
anime
realistic.
style or
Mhm.
that was still way up in the air.
So that decision making process for so hey, you spoke with a bunch of artists. Um, how did that kind of waterfall into picking someone, saying, "Hey, this both matches with kind of the vision, that you have, but also, gives them license to kind of do some of their own stuff." Like, what did that,
Yeah.
evaluation process look like? Like, what kind of, is there anything that stuck out to you?
Yeah, well, I remember wading through about 40 submissions, and like, frankly, a lot of them just weren't right for this.
Hmm.
Um, I remember like a very small handful, like maybe five or less, were like, I could imagine
This
this
person
working.
clicking, yeah.
And I remember there were maybe two or three, one of whom is John Fernando, who wound
Hmm.
up doing the book, um, were just like great. Like, I was like, wow, I never expected anyone this good to draw the book.
That's
And
awesome.
I will say, just because we're talking process here, like I remember I reached out to another artist, um, more just not because they were so much better or anything like this,
Hmm.
more just it was the one I happened to email first, and
Yeah.
we got into dialogue, and actually like things fell apart in our exchange fairly quickly,
Mm.
and I knew this going in, and I especially realized it when that dialogue fell apart. Was like it's really important to find someone that you can work with. Like
Hmm.
it's almost, I mean, it is a hiring
Yeah,
decision.
it's a colleague. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not just a, project
yeah.
partner in some
Like
respects.
I'm going to be paying them, and we may be working together for a while. And to the question you were asking a minute ago, like they're going to have to like interpret my words and make their own decisions, and then collaborate with me and have some dialogue about whether we agree. So like, um, it all wound up in the end going way better than I ever imagined it would. But that's the kind of stuff I was looking for. And so when I did get into a dialogue with John,
Hmm.
who is in the Philippines, by the way, so he's very far away from me. We've
Yeah.
never met in person.
So did like the late night, early morning, or vice versa type phone calls. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's. I mean, I'm amazed how far we've got over emails. Not even
Oh wow,
video so much. Like
that's
it's just
incredible.
like I'll send an email before I go to bed, and I'll wake up and I'll have a reply, and I might send a reply that morning, and he'll send one more before he goes to bed, and it's
That's amazing.
it was we just like he was just always super responsive even when the work took time, and so I just sort of knew I found a good collaborator. Like
Yeah, and the
the work
quality
was
is
great.
like
Yeah,
fantastic. Like the I don't want to skip past what we read, but like super well done, like great emotion. I think those are the things that I think are incredibly difficult to capture is the emotional layers of the scene or subtext, like the fact that hey, this person's telling his friend not to worry, but he really is worried. He's just kind of feigning
mm,
that he's not. Like those types of like um, things that are not just in the dialogue; they're in the imagery. Is difficult to accomplish. So I think he did a fantastic job.
yeah. That's where I feel like I just got super lucky because like the project could have taken a very different form or been a totally different caliber. If depending who else I'd worked with, or maybe it would have been some other totally different thing that was also good.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm happy it went this way.
So you worked with Jean, and then you connected with the colorist as well. Like I mean, we don't have to go too deep on this. I'm a little bit less familiar with how that, the differentiation there. But yeah, was that kind of a similar process of putting up a post, finding someone, or was there some other elements that went into that?
That one was slightly different, actually. So the to kind of split it for you, and I actually have the comic book in my hand
Oh,
here. If I
nice.
keep looking down, it's because I'm actually looking at the book.
Yeah, it's like this
Um,
particular page. Yeah.
yeah, but the Jean Fernando turns in black and white line art.
Hmm.
So
So if
every
I go
black
back,
line
I think there's
and
some
some of the
examples on the
gray.
back. Yeah. here.
Yeah, some of the gray that you see is him.
Hmm.
Um, but he sends me these pages that have a lot of white and a lot of black. And for a while, actually, I just had that because there was a period where he had drawn some of the book, and I was exploring like, could I take this to a publisher? Do I have, am
Hmm.
I ready to finance the rest of the project? What do we do now? So there was a bit of a pause,
Hmm.
but the book was coming out great, and I was starting to show it to friends and even people that I know that work in comics, and someone wound up telling me about Irma Knivilla.
Hmm.
Um, she actually has colored for Marvel and DC and major publishers, as well as doing a lot of her own cartooning.
Hmm.
Um, and frankly, like a colorist can color a page faster than an artist can draw it. So their rates are different, and I could potentially afford to work with a colorist who had worked for Marvel, like
Yeah,
who's
yeah,
doing
like
like major
it's
work.
kind of a different setup. Yeah.
Yeah. So a friend put me in touch with Irma, and she was super nice, and we've become friends. And she's coloring the book. Like again, it
No, I
was
mean it
another
looks
relationship that
fantastic.
where we just hit it off. And this whole pipeline is digital, by the way. So John does his work digitally on a tablet. He'll send me, you know, electronic files. We'll have any dialogue about those files, and then I'll pass them along to Irma, and
Hmm.
she'll color them digitally and send me those back. So it's like a full digital pipeline.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that kind of this digital workflow is, I mean, obviously it sounds like in your journey it made making this project possible. And it's like, especially at the level of quality, which is like, industry grade, right?
Mhm.
Like, do you, yeah, what are your thoughts in terms of like, that modern day creative workflow for collaborative creative projects? Like, do you think more, it's more accessible, more people should try it out than we maybe think about initially? Or, hey, was it, sort of like, hey, we got through some of the challenges of it because you just had really talented people that were really, really engaged. Like, do you think, this type of, is it the exception or the rule in terms of how achievable making, a complex creative project,
Mhm.
asynchronously and digitally is now?
Um, I think the digital was essential, and
Hmm.
I'm not sure I could have managed all the logistics of this if there was no digital. And just to be super clear,
Hmm.
I'm not talking about AI in any way, shape, or
Yeah.
form. I want to keep that out of it. Not
Yeah. Yeah.
not part of this project.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but I will say when I interned at Marvel in the '90s, it was another time,
Hmm.
and like the way these things were made is someone would print something on their home printer, send it to their editor via a fax machine. The editor would do all the editing with faxing back and forth on the script.
Hmm.
Then they would fax that script to the artist who would draw the pages on Bristol board, and the artist would FedEx those pages to Marvel, and
Yeah.
Marvel would get the pages and photostat them to have a copy that they could keep, and then they would send the boards to the inker who would apply black ink
Hmm.
over the pencils, and then they would FedEx those pages back to Marvel, and ultimately those pages would then have paste up done on them. So like all of the lettering, which is the final step of the
Hmm.
process, which I did actually,
Yeah.
um, but that used to all be done um,
By like sticking a piece of paper
analog.
on there,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
you would do the lettering on a piece of sticky paper, stick it onto the art, and eventually you just have this like pasted up board that is a page of a comic book.
Yeah.
So, shortly after that time that I was there, things started going digital. So it's not like this is a new thing for comics, but the idea that like the every aspect of the pipeline could be digital. I mean, there's people doing it all over the place now, but there are artists still that draw on Bristol board with pens and
Yeah. The
pencils.
big,
But,
the big,
that might even still be more the norm, but it really enabled a much easier workflow that like one guy sitting at home like with a day job
yeah.
could could manage.
I mean, where do you see, after going through this process with
Mhm.
Mantle, and do you see, hey, like this is something that's repeatable, are you, looking to take a breather between projects, or are you already sort of scoping out, hey, I think this might be another project I can create through this workflow?
Well, it's certainly repeatable 4 times because I'm
Yeah.
going to finish the story of Mantle
Hmm.
with 4 issues. The second one, like I say earlier, just dropped. 2 more coming next year. Um, I would love to do more of this.
Hmm.
Um, I keep telling people that we'll see where I am emotionally, spiritually, and financially at the end of this process. Maybe
Yeah.
financially is the biggest aspect of it because, like, I am paying my collaborators on
Hmm.
this project.
So go
Now,
to
I
AdamSantangeloComics.com right here on the page if you want to buy a copy. Buy many. Buy 5 copies. Give them out for Christmas,
yeah,
holiday
check out
season.
AdamSantangeloComics.com. You can buy them there. It's also on Kindle, by the way. So if you're a
Oh,
Kindle
nice.
person and you can do your one click to get it digitally there,
That's pretty cool.
um, and we'll Kickstarter the third issue next year. But the Kickstarter is always just the beginning. Then I sell the book at shows. I sell it online.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, like that's a big part of it is we'll see like the way this is all played out and if it sort of makes sense to do another one of these or maybe I work with collaborators under a different model. we'll,
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes. There's
Yeah.
definitely more ideas including a sequel to this story.
Okay. I'm excited. Well, that's very exciting because I've been really enjoying it so far, and I'm curious to see what comes next. So sequel is good news to me. Um, but yeah, I mean, in terms of, I mean, so I definitely feel you there. Like in terms of many of, um, the creative projects that I do with collaborators, like the video games and stuff, versus like the
Yeah,
novels. Like you kind of get a little bit more, flexibility, and you can just be like, well, I'm really only burning time, not financial resources. But once, like you said, you start working with collaborators, there are multiple
right.
considerations towards the next project. Like, do you feel like, hey, like, on the just the business side of it, do you feel like, I mean, obviously Kickstarter has been a huge help. Um, do you see kind of, hey, this Kickstarter model is really, you know, buy before you read type structure has been really beneficial? Do you see like the back end sales saying, okay, I've produced it, I got the Kickstarter for the initial print run, and now I don't know how it works. If it's print on
Mm,
demand, similar to what Amazon does with some books, from to my understanding, or do you say, hey, I'm gonna have to buy another like 1,000 copies and see if I can sell through that? What does that kind of business side look like?
yeah,
And then, in terms of a
yeah,
creator who also has a full-time job,
sure.
how does that balance, kind of stand out for you?
Yeah, I'll maybe start by saying that like because I have a full-time job and savings and I'm an older
Hmm.
guy at this point, like I had the luxury of investing in myself a little here
Hmm.
and not having to like have a thoroughly detailed confident business plan of how I'll recoup this investment. But that said, I see a path to doing it. Um, and I'll also say that I didn't think I was going to do a Kickstarter when I started this process. Like I actually thought to myself, like I think I have the seed investment to get this going. So
Hmm.
that's not for me. And then various people convinced me that, and it's true that like indie comics are such a huge presence on Kickstarter. There is a built-in audience there. There are people that are used to discovering new independent comic books on that platform, and there's just potential to like bring lots of readers to the project that way.
Yeah.
Um, so I did that, and it was very true. Both campaigns I've run now have attracted increasing numbers of new readers who found me on social media
That's
through the
awesome.
promotions I've done there. Um, and like the Kickstarter campaigns have been the single biggest bite of
Marketing
the
hit.
apple in terms of revenue and copies sold.
Yeah.
But that said, it's also just the beginning. So like what I've been doing is with after each Kickstarter campaign, I do a full print run. So far more than I need to
Hmm.
fulfill
Hmm.
Kickstarter. And um, I make the copies available via my website, which has like a
Hmm.
trickle of activity. I put them out via digital platforms like Kindle, and there's a thing called Global Comics, which is like a subscription-based digital comics
Oh,
platform.
awesome. Okay.
and then I do shows. So like I've done a few comic book conventions and a store appearance this fall where I
Come down
show
to the
up with.
Bay Area Comic Con. I think that they
I
have one
want
down
to.
in Moscone, so please do.
I will do it at some point. Yeah, I think it's in the fall, or there's at least one in the fall. Um, but and those shows, like when they go well, they can also like really move significant numbers of copies.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing too is like like I say, the second issue just dropped. So everything I've done up to this point, I've shown up with one comic book, which
Hmm.
you can only sell for so much, and then you have to say the rest is coming soon.
Hmm.
But next time I go out, which is at the end of January, to something called the Action Figure Comic Con in Toronto,
Hmm.
I'll be going out with two comic books, and I can sell them as a bundle. And I can only imagine that as this goes on, when my third book is the new one, people want to start at the
Yeah, you
beginning,
just
and
have a
so
bigger library to kind of draw
yeah,
on.
I'll keep
Yeah.
selling those right the way through. And I've got to believe that when all four are done, that's when something really interesting
The
happens because they have
omnibus.
a story to sell. Yeah. Yeah, and so yeah, maybe we'll do a collected edition as well. So it's tricky because there's a lot of upfront investment, but like 2 years from now, maybe we'll be putting out the book and it will be costing me very little
Yeah,
relative to what
it's
I can potentially sell the book for.
no, and Kickstarter sounds like a good way to kind of make that upfront investment a little less of a sting. And then, let the long tail be the long tail, whatever that looks like in terms of, I mean, gosh, maybe I should do that for the gaming stuff at some point. That's not a bad idea, honestly. But yeah, I mean, like kind of, I want to, give you some time to talk about, any other stuff that you want to focus on, but like, I don't know, what's one thing you would kind of share with creators, writers, folks in this kind of genre that you want to kind of say, hey, you know, one of the ways I think about writing is very much like, hey, if you're writing, you have to also be like contributing to the genre, like pushing, encouraging other writers, like driving that forward. What do you think is some, encouragement you might give, or just some kind of wisdom you might share for someone kind of at a different phase of the process?
Um, well, I might say that like, especially for comics, prose is something else. You sit down at
Hmm.
your typewriter and you type and type and type and write and write and write until you're done. Comics, you're managing a pipeline. You're working with collaborators, and if you're doing any like even if you're not self-publishing it, you're probably doing a lot of self-promotion to make this thing
Hmm.
work out.
And
Like
like project
publishers,
management, yeah.
yeah, publishers only do so much. So maybe I'll maybe go against the grain here. I've always heard this thing like write every day, write X pages every day. Like honestly, I don't do that. Like I have a job, I have another job. I have other things in my life. I have a kid.
Hmm.
Um, so like I've never been good at write every day, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah,
Um,
same.
but like I feel like what I am good at, and it's part of my other career, is like project management and just getting shit done
Hmm.
and thinking through all the things that need to get done and
Yeah.
when they need to get done by in order to be successful. And so like if you're a comic book writer, all of this stuff is part of it. And if you can be good at that other stuff, then your writing is just part of the process. Like you have to get the writing done,
Hmm.
but it's one of the steps in the execution of like the total project. So like for me, that's part of what keeps it interesting is like if I had been writing every day for the last 2 years on this project, I I'm not sure I would have made it. Like I'm not sure I have that in me necessarily.
Yeah, but it
But
is like the that incremental gain doesn't necessarily happen at the storytelling level. Like it can be like, hey, I got an email to my colorist, or I got an email to my inker, and those,
yeah,
that those increments can look different for any project. And I think, yeah,
yeah,
I totally agree that the writing every day thing is a pretty
yeah.
intimidating, ultimatum that a lot of people I think confront, and I don't think it's always that beneficial to like throw ultimatums at yourself and be like, well,
Yeah.
if I can't write every day, I'm just not going to write at all. And you're like,
I mean,
well,
if 20 years ago that used to really depress me that I was never doing that.
hmm,
So,
yeah,
I've accepted now that that's not how it works for me. Like, one week I might be preparing for a convention appearance. The next week I might be scripting the dialogue in the new issue. The
yeah,
next week I might be going back and forth with my artist, and the next week I might be doing nothing.
Yeah, and
Uh,
like hanging with the
yeah,
family, which is a very reasonable thing to do as
yeah,
like a
so,
as a human.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. For anybody who's watches the VOD or whatever, AdamSantangeloComics.com. I will center that. I should have typed it in, but shame on me. Please
No
check
worries.
out
Or
his
find
work.
me on your social media platform of choice.
Yes.
If you want to just like hear more from me,
And
follow
there's a
me
lot
there.
of wisdom. Let me tell you, I've collaborated with Adam in the past. Brilliant individual across the board, and so definitely follow his social media both to just get wonderful creative entertainment and some awesome stories, but his insight into the process I think is invaluable, and especially you know, as the process has evolved. Like it's not, like kind of like you were discussing, it's not the same go to market as it used to be for especially visual creative media, where the teamwork looks different, the pieces that an individual does look different, the day to day creative process does look a lot more like project management than potentially kind of a romanticized like, oh, I'm just ideas all day long, and you're like, well, it's not real life. like
Mhm. Right.
but yeah, so what socials should they follow you at? I know the like.
Uh, well, I'm there. I'm under my name, Adam Santangelo, all one word on X. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Instagram and Threads under Castle Frank Comics. But I think if you type my name, you'll find me there too. Um, Mantle is on Facebook. I think those are all the things. Um, Follow me on any one of those, and you will be able to figure out how to get Mantle. You'll hear about new issues. You'll hear me talking about just comic books I like and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Heck yeah. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking through this. And it was a lot of fun. I even
Thank you
if
for all the kind words, and I really appreciate it.
well, yeah, like no matter how many views or whatever this gets, I just have a blast chatting with you, and it's such a blessing, and it's so awesome to see, friends and colleagues just. It's not an easy thing to do anything creative, small, big, comic, game, book, novel, anything. It's the it's such a battle against resistance, and
Mhm.
I am always just so delighted when I see someone overcome that, and like no matter what happens financially with the book or whatever, like I hope that you're giving yourself deep encouragement and collaborations because you've achieved something that's non-trivial. It's extremely challenging, and I think it just speaks to your diligence and your character because I think you're right. Telling stories that talk about these important themes are worth the work. It's worth the pain. It's worth the late nights. And it's amazing to see someone, live that out in action. So thank you for making an awesome project for us to read.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Take care. Have a good one.
You too.